Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Dinozor Gaming, where we learn to be a better player. This week we're going to be watching the finals of a local showdown that happened here, and the finals is going to be played between Kylo Ren on Tarkintown versus Rey on Datavault. Star-crossed lovers here fighting it off, and of course we're going to be seeing decks on the two ends of the spectrum, Kylo Ren being one of the absolute fastest decks in the game, the most aggressive, and Rey being one of the most defensive decks out there, if not the most turtle shield wall deck possible. This is a true game of behemoths, of an unstoppable force fighting against an immovable object. So let's see how that pans out. Now we see Rey start off with the typical R2D2 and using Rey's ability to turn that into a 2/5, but luckily for Kylo, he had the answer in the daring raid with the Tarkintown. Not a great use of resources, using both your base and the card to get rid of that one cost card, but that is what you want to be seeing as the Kylo Ren player. You want to be removing those early speed bumps. You don't care that much about card value. You care more about being able to dish out an extreme amount of damage before your opponent can catch up. Now, of course, Rey is able to put out a lot of small units with restore, and that is usually troublesome for Kylo. So we see that Yoda come down, being able to restore 2 every single turn, but Kylo answers that with 3 1-drops on turn 2. He's already showing upwards of 10 damage in play, with another 2 from Benthic's ability, another 2 from Kylo's ability, already down to just 1 card in hand, which is what you want to be seeing as Kylo. We are going into the 3rd turn, which means Kylo Ren is able to deploy, but Yoda is able to get rid of Benthic 2-2, removing not only 4 damage potential but also restoring 2. That is a big 6 health swing, so we'll see if the damage output coming from Kylo is enough. Now we're going to be just seeing a slow start on either side, just attacking. No one wants to reveal their cards just yet. Normally here, what you would do as the Rey player, and what would work against most aggro decks, is a village protector, especially if you play a village protector and use Rey's power. But Kylo is ready with already having a saboteur in play to deal with that if it does come down. So instead, we're just going to be seeing another 1-drop come down, and Kylo is going to be using Chaos of War, an extremely strong reach card, which is even stronger against Rey due to the sheer amount of card draw that Rey usually has. But it looks like Rey had the answer in Akbar, being able to not only defeat that antagonizer on play and draw a card, but is also another body that has restore built in. Honestly, even with Kylo coming out and hitting for 5, we're already seeing that the Rey player has 4 or 5 restore in play, being able to nullify half of the damage that's coming out from Kylo. Even with the current potential of 11 damage showing, we're seeing 5 restore in play as well as 5 attack in play from Rey. It looks like Rey's potentially going to be able to stabilize. Now that said, we are only going into the 5 resource turn. There's still 1 more turn before Rey herself comes out with 12 damage on the board, now 15. Half of the base's health is dealt, or almost. There is a chance for Kylo to dish out enough damage for his reach cards to come in and close out the game. We'll see if that's the case here. Kylo obviously opted not to resource here, staying at 4 resources, keeping 2 cards in hand, but Rey uses Entrenched, a card that is very often used on your opponent's units, instead used on your own here. A very good play, because that lets your 1-cost card, which would normally not trade well, to instead not only defeat Kylo but also restore 1 on the base. It looks like this race is already going in the direction of the Rey player, able to clean out the board almost entirely and keep some of his restore, keep his base health at only 16. This is looking very great for Rey, and on top of that, finishing the turn with a spark of hope, getting up to 6 resources, deploying Rey, able to attack, give an experience to itself, not only get rid of a unit but also restore 3. We are down to 13 damage on the base with nothing else on Kylo's board. I think that's it, and both players do realize this. That was a very fast game 1, and so they're going to be going into game 2. Now we'll see if there are enough cards in the sideboard for Kylo to be able to fight back here. But at the moment, it looks like the defensive options that the Rey has are simply too much for Kylo. All right, all that said, let's go ahead and jump into game number 2. Kylo will have the initiative this time around. And of course, one thing to note is while usually Kylo Ren's game plan is to deal a lot of damage early on with your units and use your reach cards to finish out the game. So there's a lot of cards that can deal damage out of hand. In Kylo's deck, there's Daring Raid, Ruthless Raider, Chaos of War, or otherwise just being able to lane dodge. However, that won't work that well versus Rey due to the amount of healing that Rey can put out. So instead, I think as a Kylo player, you need to realize that you need to fight for the board at least a little bit in the beginning, so you're not overwhelmed by the amount of small units and healing that Rey is about to put out. Now we see a Partisan Insurgents come down and is answered by another 1-drop that's buffed up from Rey. That's what Rey wants to see. Kylo uses his ability, drops that silencer. That's exactly what you want to see, the perfect synergy, discarding a card without actually discarding a card. And of course, once that silencer is played, that Insurgent will be able to attack for 5 here. And that 5 attack is pretty good, able to remove either one of Rey's units. Now, yeah, normally you don't want to be removing units, but if you're just hitting your opponent's base here, the amount of restore that these units are going to do are probably going to be more than that 5 damage that you put out. Yeah. So we're going to be seeing Partisan hits base for 5 indeed. The silencer does come out, but we're going to be drawing a card by using Tarkintown to get rid of that bounty, and an antagonizer is going to come down. It's a very well-timed antagonizer. Of course, as we mentioned in game 1, one of the strongest tools that Rey has for aggro is the Village Protector, and having that Saboteur out to prevent it is key. That said, we already see the Sundari Peacekeepers available there, and with the initiative, if Rey does want to play the Village Protectors, you can easily just get rid of the antagonizers. And it looks like we're going to be, instead we're going to get rid of the Insurgents, just getting rid of 1 more power from the board and restoring as well. This is already not looking too great for Kylo. That said, as we did notice, in the first game, Kylo did not play a lot of space, so there's a chance that the Rey player opted to not sideboard in space cards, hoping that there wasn't too much of a presence. So if you are able to, as the Kylo player, completely lane dodge, put out enough space pressure, you might be able to deal enough damage before the restores start kicking in. Now this is the turn 3. Kylo does come out this turn, but there has been a lot of draw for the Kylo player. And first of all, when you discarded on your first turn the silencer, you didn't actually discard it because you played it. And then finally defeating that bounty on Rey's side did also draw another card. So you're going to need to empty out your hand somehow, or your Kylo is not going to be hitting very hard. So we're going to see Kylo exactly do that, waste a card, give an extra 2 power to the antagonizer. With that 4 attack, is able to deal with that Yoda if he wants. But no, looks like we're going to be hitting base instead, dealing out 8 damage to the base, already taking that base to 13 damage. Sorry, not 8 damage, there were 2 cards in hand. But yeah, 13 damage on Datavault. That's just not enough for turn 4. You are not putting up enough pressure, but showing a lot of damage in play. At the moment, we're seeing upwards of 12-13 damage potential from Kylo Ren, but the Sundari Peacekeepers with that experience does attack for 4, which is just enough to get rid of that Kylo and survive. So already it's looking pretty grim for the Kylo player. Now aggression is handy here, gets rid of that Yoda, and the experience on the Peacekeeper is not quite enough to defeat it yet, but at least removes some of that defensive pressure that Rey was building up. But it is answered by Bright Hope. It looks like we do have that space presence from Rey, especially one of the absolute best space sentinels, and Kylo finally decides that, yep, I need to be fighting for that board. That Peacekeeper alone has restored I believe 6 health on the base. That's more than it would have taken to defeat it. And so that Bright Hope is buffed up to 7 attack. It looks like platform is going to attack. That is a mistake. We're going to pause this right here for a second and discuss why. It's a very key thing. If that platform attacks into that Bright Hope, dealing that 4 damage, the indirect damage can then be placed on Bright Hope. Not all of it, of course. If you place 2 damage on that Bright Hope, it still survives with 1 health. And then that Silencer attacking it will overkill it by 2, but without Overwhelm, you're missing out on that 2 damage. So your better play here would have been to attack with the Silencer first, take that Bright Hope down to 4, and then platform is able to attack in, deal that 3 indirect damage to the base. And it looks like the players do realize this, and the Rey player does allow the take back. Very kind of him. And so we're going to be seeing that play done. That's the maximum amount of damage possible to the base, but even with that, there's only 14 damage on the base going into the 5 resource turn. 5 resource or 6 resource? 6 resource turn here. This is when Rey deploys, and honestly, it looks like there's just not enough pressure on Kylo's side. That said, we don't know what they sideboarded in. There's a good chance that we have some other threats to deal with. For example, a Ruthless Raider is very hard for Rey to deal with. And it looks like Rey starts with a blue leader using the ability to come onto the ground and get rid of the antagonizers, draw a card. And we're going to be seeing Planetary Bombardment come from Kylo Ren, another one of those fantastic reach cards. That's what you want to be seeing later on when you've already dealt enough damage to the base. But at the moment, all of the damage is dealt to the base. The Rey player doesn't respect it, knows that with Rey coming out with a Restore 3, the base is at 19 damage, still needs another 14, and that is a lot of damage that needs to be dealt with nothing in play. I think this is pretty much it. Yeah, and it looks like the players do realize this. And that was a very short, one-sided game. I guess it goes to show that the Unstoppable Force was just not unstoppable enough. Rey being just too good of a defensive deck. There's way too many Sentinels and early restores, and being able to match those 1-drops that Kylo is playing with your own 1-drops and still having late game to play later on just makes Rey that just a smidge too good against aggressive decks. All that said, guys, thank you very much for watching. And if you like what you're seeing, please don't forget to comment, subscribe. I read everything that you guys write, so if you have any feedbacks or any other suggestions, or if there's other content that you guys want to see, feel free to let me know. And with all that said, thank you once again, and I will see you guys next time.